Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Unfortunately, it is not the regular day. It is not the regular reason for one of these shows, but we have with us special guest coming on. Uh, please welcome to the show. He's been here several times. Owner of Stranglehold Championship Wrestling, Mr. Eric Nelson. Eric,
Hey,
you
Eric,
know,
thanks
man,
for coming on.
thank you for
Yeah,
joining us. Wish it was under better circumstances, man. I am sorry.
yeah,
Very sorry
Yeah,
to hear
our
about the
condolences
passing.
to you and everyone else in the Georgia wrestling community.
Yep, definitely. Sorry to hear about your
absolutely.
loss.
Mr. Odom was one of the promoters I worked for that was instrumental in my career. Also opened lots of doors for everyone else. But without further ado, let us do the traditional 10 bell salute before we proceed further.
Of course, here we go. All right.
All
So
right.
I know we got 10 that time. It was muted. So now I've got to get us back.
All right. Here we are.
There we go. All right. So man, I I'm ashamed to say that I didn't know much about this man. Uh, and when you reached out to me, it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mhm.
I was like, I let me see what we can do, so
And
we
it's
can throw
much
something together.
appreciated, guys, as always.
Yeah, no problem.
Like I said, Grady Odom was very instrumental in my career, opened a lot of doors for me. The biggest project we were involved in was the resurgence of Georgia Championship Wrestling in 2011.
Yep.
Um, Obviously, there's Georgia Championship Wrestling now is a different incarnation of such. When Mr. Odom passed it down to the current owners, and we both, it led to the formation of Stranglehold Championship Wrestling, where you guys found me, and the rest is history on that. But I'll begin to tell you a little bit about Grady's career. He wrestled originally before promoting as one of the Assassins.
Mhm.
Um, Constantly filling in for either Tom Renesto or Jody Hamilton. I'm sure you guys know your history on the team known as the Assassins. They were a pretty big deal in the territory days. He also formed All Star Wrestling in Georgia and also in Pensacola, Florida area as well, and ran that through the 1980s.
Oh wow.
Um, so many of the same legends that we've all had conversations about, he has worked with as well. Um, he also worked with the Gunkel family with their territory. For those of you who don't know, I always bring this reference as the world's deadliest heel being Ox Baker. One of Ox Baker's victims to the heart punch was Ray Gunkel. And I remember that as a kid because Ray Gunkel was pretty well known in the South, especially throughout wrestling. And when that unfortunate set of circumstances happened. So Grady at the time was working for the Gunkels when that occurred. A little bit of history there. Yeah, Grady sat me down early 2011 and basically said, I want to bring back Georgia Championship Wrestling. I want you to bring in, the best unsigned talent plus connect me with people that made Georgia Championship Wrestling a household name. One of the biggest shows we did was my hometown of Macon, Georgia. We had Abdul the Butcher pass the torch to Congolese Nightmare that night, essentially naming a new successor to Abdul the Butcher's legacy. We also had Tony Atlas and Wildfire Tommy Rich have a tag team match against Steve Lawler, who was also a fixture in Georgia Championship Wrestling, and Bad Boy Billy Black. So a very iconic tag team match there. Just to name a few things. That Grady opened my eyes to a lot of things, got me to expand my horizons in wrestling, to move me more away from the independent train of thought to more, things on a larger stage. And I'll be forever grateful to him for that.
What would you say was his influences on you? How did he help you to get into the business?
Well, like I said, I had been working in the business already at this point for, I'd say, right at my 16-year mark when I decided to go work for him. And a lot of his biggest influence, he made me a better promoter, opened my eyes to some things that obviously I wasn't doing as good as I should have been at that time. And put me in contact with some people that were more, more on a higher tier professional level, not just as wrestlers, but he got me, contact with better production, better booker, better everything.
That's awesome. You said he was one of the innovators of Georgia Championship Wrestling, right?
Right. He was one. He basically brought it back.
Mm-hmm.
He had purchased his share from Ole Anderson, who was partners with the Briscoe brothers. Before Vince McMahon took over in the early '80s. And of course, he took over Ole Anderson's share of the company and brought it back in 2011, and brought me in to kind of breathe new life into it, bring some of the best talent out there at the time. Brought in Micah Taylor, who was fresh off a WWE development contract. We had Jake Slater, who was one of the best heels in Georgia, I would definitely say, and one of the best bookers in the locker room. And there were lots. I mean, we brought in Dangerous Danny Horn. Nigel Sherrod, several people you've probably heard of on the indies that worked this territory were part of that project. And Grady helped open a lot of doors for them as well. The late Dan Masters, who was our ring announcer. Like I said, it was a great several-year run there. Taught me a lot of things, and helped me along with opening the doors to Stranglehold Championship Wrestling a few years later.
That's awesome. It seems like he was a big influence in the area as well. The fact that, I've been seeing some of the posts throughout the day, just kind of talking about how of a down-to-earth guy he was, and just how much he cared about the business, about the talent.
Absolutely. He helped train Killer Keith Steinborn, who was in WCW for a short time. He helped along the career of Outlaw Joel Deaton. And honestly, I can't say enough good things about the guy. It's been a crazy few hours since I've been trying to wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's really sad to hear. We've been losing a lot of people lately.
Absolutely. One of the things you guys have all heard me say in the past is the hardest part about this business, working with some of the people I basically grew up watching, and then the day comes where I have to say goodbye to them.
Yeah, and I've been hearing a lot, like, take that picture. Like, who cares? Mark out. That's what we're all marks.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. So I always take the opportunity to talk to your heroes, or talk to people who have influenced you in this business, because you never know when you're going to talk to them or have that opportunity. And like you said, he always had golden nuggets to give out to people regarding any aspect of business when it came to promoting, booking, just putting stuff together. I mean, he was a big influence to a lot of people.
Absolutely. Like I said, countless people who have gone on to WWE have worked with him. You know, anybody that was a legend in the 70s and 80s, especially, you know, in the Southeast, came through those doors with Grady. You know, I was talking to Randy Hogan. You guys have seen him around the Indies. You know, he does a lot of fantastic conventions. He got to work with Grady in the Georgia and Alabama territories, both respectively, as the assassin at the time. So that was a little tidbit that was thrown at me just recently. You know, a little bit of things I didn't know about the man, and even though I worked with him closely for several years of my career. So, like I said, he was a fountain of knowledge. He had a lot of information to pass on. You know, he was hard sometimes, but you know, the experience was worth it.
Yeah. It seems like he was a mentor to a lot of people. That's mostly what I'm seeing here. I'm kind of going through, and there's like a lot of people he mentored here. Mr. Randy Hogan saying, yeah, he's been across from him in a couple matches. He was great to work with in and out of the ring, according to him. Just on your post here, you have a lot of people kind of sharing the same sentiment about him.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Chick Donovan, you know, being in the territories you guys have worked. He helped Chick Donovan's career a lot back in the early 80s. You know, and of course, during my time with Georgia Championship Wrestling, you know, we had Chick featured on several of our cards. We did a really nice double shot deal in Augusta and Athens, Georgia, where we not only brought in Wildfire Tommy Rich, but we also introduced Diamond Dallas Page to Georgia Championship Wrestling. And needless to say, it was a great experience. I can't say enough good things. Of course, all of you guys know Glacier, Ray Lloyd. I think known to the Nightmare Factory guys, Coach Lloyd. Did a really big deal with us in Cordele, Georgia. That was one of GCW's you know, smaller towns, but we always did well in that part of the world. Matter of fact, our opening show was in Americus, Georgia, with Chick Donovan, Outlaw Joe Deaton on the card, and we got a better response in that area than I thought. We had a sold out crowd that night. I mean, we had that rec center filled to capacity, and I hadn't seen Grady that happy in years. You know, ever since we started getting everything together, he was like, "Man, what a great night! We did so good." You know, of course, our most successful show we did Macon, Georgia, with Tony Atlas, Abdullah the Butcher, and Tommy Rich, and Steve Lawler, and Bad Boy Billy Black. You know, a lot of knowledge there.
It's a stacked night, yeah.
Right. I mean, you know, Steve Brawl Lawler was credited with training Glenn Gilliberti, who the world knows as Disco Inferno. Mm-hmm. So a lot of tie-ins there.
I'm going through your post here because it seems like you just found out earlier today. And there's
say
that like some people have like a lot, like they've known him for quite some time. Shout out to Dina Hendrickson saying that she remembers him, that she was actually a secretary at the time at GA Championship Wrestling.
She was an office person with Grady in the early days, shortly before my tenure began as vice president. And like I said, he put a lot on me and held my feet to the fire a lot, but it was good in most ways.
I think that's the good thing about a
Sometimes it
good
drove me
mentor.
crazy,
They'll
but
show you, but they'll be hard on you because they believe in you.
oh, absolutely,
They see the potential in you. And one of the people right here, Eric Buddy Burke, shout out to him, says Grady was my mentor when he first started as a booker. He traveled thousands of miles with him. This one hurts for him. He's saying rest in peace.
I'll tell you, where Buddy Burke's concerned, he was our booker for the double shot I mentioned in Athens and Augusta. Since he was, as you know, Buddy Burke's known in the Carolinas as well as Georgia on the independent scene. So it was, it's kind of coming full circle for him in that regard. Working those areas with us and being the booker. Buddy's had a long time in the business, and like I said, Grady mentored him, and like I said, as he mentioned, thousands of miles together, show after show after show. They did a lot together as well.
Any stories that you remember? Let's liven up though. Any good stories with him or any funny stories? Now you got to kind of thinking back. You're mentioning a lot of shows here.
Well, one thing I like to point out.
There's a lot of those road stories.
One thing I like to point out, when Grady brought me in, he said he wanted to put the gimmicks of old on newer, upcoming talent. That was one of the things he wanted me for. With some of my creative ideas and some people that I might say, okay, I think this person should come in and, basically have this person pass the torch. Our first deal with that was Abdullah the Butcher passing the torch to the late Kimbrough Jones, who became known to the world as the Congolese Nightmare. Essentially, Abdullah blessed him with being, his his version 2.0, if you will. And that was a very, very, very packed house that night. It was more than 1,000 people watched that show, and it was one of our better shows. I think it's one of my favorite memories so far. You guys all know Nigel Sherrod, if you've been on the Indies long enough. Nigel Sherrod was on the card that night with Dangerous Danny Horn. They had a very good match, tore the house down. Of course, what better main event than we had Micah Taylor and Jake Slater as main event that night, and what a heck of a main event that was. And sadly, Jake and Mike are both gone, and it's really, really surreal to think about. Not just the legends that I grew up watching, but a lot of the guys I came through the business with over a 31-year career thus far.
Wow.
So I will say Grady was a big help in that regard. Introduced me to a lot of new people, a lot of new ideas. Just showed me a better way of doing what I do best. When you guys came in with me at MomoCon in 22, Grady's health had been pretty bad, and I've been trying to convince him for months, hey, I really want you to come to this. I think, you're going to see the fruits of your labor, where I'm concerned here, man. I mean, you guys remember the draw there. It was a big deal.
Draw. Yeah. It was an awesome show. Did he have a bit of a hand in that at all? Or are you just trying to get him to come out there?
Well, I was trying to get him to come out and kind of see the fruits of his labor, based on how he mentored me and taught me. Like I said, a little scatterbrained at the moment. Just bear with me.
It's totally understandable. I mean, you're the one who reached out to us to kind of talk about your friend here, your mentor.
Well, like I said, you guys have, most recent years of this company, in my legacy as well. You guys have been a huge part of that. Birthday champions, you guys really hit it home good, and hoping I can put something together this year to kind of reflect on all of this. You know what I mean, including my experiences with Grady. Maybe do something special for him as a tribute. But it's just something I'm thinking about. As you know, I've been kind of quiet this year.
Yeah.
But based on this happening and some other things coming about, I guess it's time for me to start getting my promoter cap back on and try to push forward again, because I know that's what he would want. I spent an awful lot of time setting up towns for him, and yes, I did work for Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Okay.
And like I said, my title with Georgia Championship Wrestling was Executive Vice President from 2011 to early 2014, when I basically left that role and formed Stranglehold Championship Wrestling.
So you said that it's under new
Yeah,
management?
gentlemen, I'm sure you guys, if you've worked the Indies in Georgia, you've heard of Chris Nelms. He's basically heading it up now at a place in Buckhead, Georgia. It's out in Oconee County. It's like a more like a fishing resorty kind of community out there. So they usually run in a skating rink called Got to Be Rolling. And they've been doing some. They've been bringing in some new talent, trying to kind of keep their version of it alive and going, and support Grady's legacy as well.
It's awesome. It's good to see, kind of the community come together for that, because I mean, you hear it, like Georgia Championship Wrestling is pretty big. It's pretty well known, especially down in the South and in that area. I mean, you got new talents coming up from all the time. I know a couple of talents down there. Any talents that that he was like into, or he was trying to push, or you saw that that he had, well, not to say favorites, but any that he liked working with that you're aware of?
Well, like I said, he had such a very long career. I mean, shoot, he had more than 30 years in the business by the time I met him. And you guys have heard me mention Dangerous Danny Horn. Y'all met him briefly at Birthday of Champions.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that I've been up down the road with. Well, Grady Odom was his trainer. And you want to talk about, and I know he's listening. Hey, Danny, don't shoot the messenger here, but Grady was exceptionally hard on him. Especially, when we did the resurgence of Georgia Championship Wrestling together, he was exceptionally hard on Danny, to the point Danny was just over it, But I remember telling Danny in the car, and then of course when Danny called and broke the news to me today, I said, I know you loved him, and then sometimes you just, you wanted to go off on him. He said, yeah, he was that guy. He was like a father to me, and sometimes he was a little too much like one.
So you were kind of like the rebellious teenager a lot, huh?
Yeah, Danny was, yeah. I was just kind of there, put out the fires, if you will, because with Grady, you never know. You guys tell me that, especially Ron here tells me that when I come up with an idea, it's absolutely nuts and over the top. As well, you guys know that.
Sounds about right. Yeah, usually. Yeah.
I give Grady a lot of credit for that characteristic about me. He kind of instilled that in me a little bit.
I mean, every time my phone rings and I look at it and it's Eric, I'm like, oh, the last time. All right, so when you called me earlier today, it was one thing, but you called me Sunday night. I was sitting in church and I looked at my phone and I said, "Oh dear Lord." And I'm sitting, second pew, third pew right now, and I'm like, man, what could Eric have up his sleeve now? And I just did I call you Monday? I don't remember. I can never keep up with how many people I'm on the phone with. Y'all can hear
I've
me,
lost
correct?
count.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah,
Sorry,
I don't even know.
As you can imagine, I'm getting a lot of response too.
Oh yeah.
From a lot of people that knew me and Grady jointly.
Well, actually, we're gonna try to leave it up. If you guys have any stories or anything you want to tell about Grady, you got more than welcome.
Yeah, like I
to come
said,
talk to us.
you guys, I've tried to open it up and share it to everybody. Please, I mean, for anybody that knew him, longer than me that worked with him extensively. Also, I want to hear it because honestly, it's how I'm coping with this.
Well, so I know you got a phone call earlier today. Was it old age, natural causes? What we
Well,
talking about here?
Grady had been in bad health for a long time. I mean, he even had some health issues when we worked together. And honestly, from what I'm understanding, all those issues caught up with him.
Okay,
I'm sad to hear.
gotcha.
The wrestling business can be a bit unkind to us sometimes. Sometimes we can be on top of the world. Sometimes we end up at our lowest point. And unfortunately, that's where we found where this with Grady took place.
I mean, yeah.
I know GoFundMe's are usually shit on in this business. Excuse my language, but I'm just being honest here. You know me. I'm straight to the point. But I'm going to share a GoFundMe to try to raise money to bury him because he literally had nobody that could do anything for him.
Mm.
And I think it's only fair, a guy that put out so much of himself. And at one time, he was a very wealthy man when he was doing these things. I think it's only fair,
Well,
for some people to help out.
when that
Do you have that?
GoFundMe hits, you be sure to send it my way and David's way.
Absolutely.
And we'll
And for anybody
drop it
listening,
everywhere.
$1, $5, whatever. I've got word that his funeral expenses are going to be about $4,000. So, like I said, this the only resource I have in life anymore is the wrestling world. Like, hey, we just lost one of our own, a guy who opened so many doors. I mean, anybody that can do anything for the man, I just, wow. I'm still processing this, so
I understand, Mom.
bear with me,
Take
guys.
your time. Take your time. If you would like to, you have the link that I sent you to jump on here. If you want to send that to anybody or anybody watching on your side, they can jump on and talk to us about them.
Absolutely.
Feel free to share that. I'll put that in the comments too.
Absolutely. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
You're gonna drop the link in the comments
For people who want to talk, because I think they're watching on his end.
Oh, well, it won't. I don't know if the hyperlink works through that. That's a interesting scenario.
Well, gentlemen, I will certainly share this broadcast. I'm sure people might see it after the fact.
Okay.
So, a lot of Georgia's history after the Briscoe brothers and Ole were out of it stems from Grady.
Right. Yeah, Grady was responsible for, organizing the rebirth. And that's where I came in. Him and Danny Horn, that you've all met, were working together on some things. And he asked Danny, how would I go about starting this back up? Do you know anybody that can help me? So he's like, yeah, my dude, Eric Nelson. He's like, he's linked with everybody, all the legends, all the people that are in the scene these days, especially, in the South, not just Georgia, but everywhere. I was living in South Carolina at the time.
Yeah,
What's that?
That was after ECW, right? For you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, many years after. This was only a few years before Stranglehold was formed. And, like I said, I parted with Grady on good terms because I just wanted to stretch my wings a little bit. And
sometimes you have to do that,
and make a product all my own that, just to a point I felt a little held back sometimes. If I had to say anything negative, which I don't have much negative to say, but I just kind of felt a little held back sometimes and a little bit overstepped a couple of times to the point it got a little frustrating. I was like, look, I got brought in to do a job and I'm trying to do it. And, like I said, you guys have heard the phrase, too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
We've seen it.
Oh, yeah, of course you have.
Too many hands in the pot. Yeah.
Like, too many hands in the cookie jar. And it's kind of like, at some point you just have to say, all right, I'm gonna let you guys have it, and
Right.
good luck. And I will still support you. I'll still love you. I'll still be there, if you need something. But I got to do something different now, And it was time. And he knew it, and I knew it, and most people that were involved at that time knew it. And some people had some things to say about it, but that's okay. I'm not here for everybody's approval. And that was one thing he did point out, because I used to, believe it or not, I used to give a shit about what people thought. I know you guys have not necessarily seen that side of me, because I marched to the beat of my own drum. And Grady's like, look, people are going to love you or hate you no matter what you do, so you might as well do what you want to do and what makes you happy.
Yeah.
If that means you got to go start your own, I understand. Just I hope we can do something later. And I told him over the years after that, like, look, I'm open to do anything with you. I will collab with you. I'll do something. You just tell me what you want to do. But his health, which ultimately led up to the events of the day, prohibited a lot of that. It got to a point where he just physically couldn't, no matter how bad he wanted to. And like I said, he had been battling health issues for a long time. I'm relieved that he's no longer suffering.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
But it doesn't negate the fact that he's gone and that I missed him,
Well,
Oh man. But like I said, this is how I cope with these things.
No, we're just glad we could be here for you and allow you to
Oh
talk
yeah,
about
like I said,
the
I
process.
told you guys from the beginning when you guys joined me at MomoCon is, buckle up, man. It'll be a ride. Sometimes it'll be a high note. Sometimes it'll be a low note.
yeah. It's been.
And I said, if you stick around with this business long enough, you'll be saying goodbye to a lot of your heroes and a lot of the people that inspired you and were instrumental in your careers. It's inevitable. It will happen. And that's the bad part of this business. Just no matter what happens, with that, if you remember this years from now, just think on the good things and the positives that you did with these people and the things that you learned from them, and use it to the best of your ability.
I think.
Because
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
it's really got me off. Per se, this has got me off my ass, and I'm starting to kind of get a little more aggressive and doing something this year instead of just sitting around, feeling like Birthday of Champions last year was, the curtain call or whatever. Now I'm kind of like, well, I need to press on. Too many people count on me. Too many people want to do these types of things with me. It's just the thing is, like I've told you guys, it's got to be worth doing.
Yeah. Everything.
This is just not just some fuck all indie shit. I mean, it's got to be the real deal. Do I think there'll be a Birthday of Champions type show this year? Yeah, I can see it in the works. Especially now, the more people I have lost in the last couple of years, it's really weighed heavy on me. I mean, literally, you guys literally replaced two people that I lost. When y'all came into this company, and I'm thankful y'all got to know them before all that went down.
Yeah.
Right. Same. One interesting caveat to this wrestling industry is I feel like the people that are brought in by somebody else because they know of the passion within that person seem to do better than the people who just come in and try to jump in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
and it's
you
weird.
were
I
brought
mean,
in. You were brought in,
right,
years and years
and
ago.
inadvertently, I was brought in. You
Same.
know, I walked into the wrong door, and you know, into a very respected organization's locker room, and was treated well. And up until last year, I was really good friends with those two people. But
Right.
sometimes, sometimes you get to a point that the ride ends for some and keeps going for others. You know.
Uh, one thing about it, it becomes a "what can you do for me" industry.
Yeah, and I hate that.
It that's one of the main turnoffs in this business. But thankfully, the people I associate with, whether I work for them or not, and I still reach out and try to associate with everybody. For the most part, most of them still pretty good, still pretty good people. You know,
Hmm.
whether or not we work or we do what we do, that's up. Yeah, that's on time. You know, that's whether timing is right. You can work every in this business. There's 3 shows a weekend within a stone's throw of my house. I know that there's got to be one or two up there where you're at, David, and I know there's 3 shows a weekend where you're at for a fact, Eric.
Yeah.
If anybody wanted to, they could easily be at every show, working everything, but they gotta want that.
Right. And
The kicker with that, it becomes one big caveat. If you're at all 3 shows in the same weekend in the same town, what's so special that makes
it's not.
them want to see
And
you?
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. You know, when I before I went to work for Grady, that was one thing. I didn't mind working a bunch of shows. I didn't mind being behind the scenes for multiple people. But then Grady's like, you know, is it really worth your time? And just remember, quality over quantity. You know, wins every time.
100%.
Because I had a very, as he called it, the independent wrestling mentality. You know, there's such thing as being too indie,
Right?
right? There comes a point where, you know, are you going to evolve in this business, right? Because that's a real thing.
Hmm.
And I can tell you just, you know, this is for you guys. And the time I've gotten to know y'all have evolved by leaps and bounds. And I've watched your progress, and trust me, I pay attention. I come on this podcast just to look, make sure you guys are good. You know, not to stick my fingers in the pie, just to make sure y'all are good and everything's working like it should be. And I'm very fortunate to have you guys on my team.
Well, we've always appreciated your your guidance, actually. Um, you have given us some really solid advice. You've putting us in contact with a lot of great people,
Yeah.
and we've done some cool stuff that we wouldn't have been able to do without you.
Yeah.
Oh,
And people often overlook those things in this lifetime,
they do.
and I mean, they overlook it on levels that is just unfathomable to me. Overlooking, a one phone call and one opportunity in front of the right people, one statement. Hold on, I'm going to throw this out there. One statement with a couple of legends changed TV in a
Hmm.
Yeah.
week,
Absolutely.
and we saw it. We saw it. And I can't believe it happened. And I can't believe Chicago was watching. Y'all know what I'm saying. We ain't gonna name names, but I can't believe Chicago was paying attention to what was being said out here.
Yeah.
That's nuts to me. I'm like, wait, what? How did that happen? But
Well,
it
you know, you
was
think about this, our Birthday of Champions event, you know, not just open a lot of doors internationally because we had an international card for those days, but we transcended wrestling. I mean, think about it. We had the voice of Majin Buu sitting right next to you guys.
Yeah. And now he's doing wrestling training himself. Like
Oh
he's
yeah,
in the ring training.
I'm
right.
I'm pleased as punch to know the man. Like I said, all of this has been new beginnings. You know, the last couple of years, and I've had to say goodbye to some some of the people responsible for my career, and that's the part that does suck. Yeah, I really wish he'd been healthy enough to actually see Birthday of Champions too. While we're talking about Grady, and I think he would have had a great time meeting you guys.
Yeah.
That's one thing. He always stayed inspired. I'll say that about the man. He was always open for fresh ideas. But sometimes he was set in his ways, and I understand. I mean, he was in a different era of time where we were just fans, most of us.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely.
I had to kind of remind him, not to sound negative, of course. But I was like, man, and this is back when I was working for him. I said, it's 2011 now. A lot of these things that worked in the past aren't going to work now. Well, a lot of those things need to work again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where I helped him. I helped him find that balance.
Right. I was actually speaking with a friend of mine earlier. So when you called me, I was in my truck driving home. Let me know about the Bell Salute video. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Right before that, I had a conversation with a wrestler asking me opinions. And so it's a one-sided phone call when you're in a truck with, I had both my kids and my neighbor in the truck, and we were talking. So I'm trying to explain something, and I'm like, you wouldn't believe, man. I was like, some veterans in this industry, and I'm not talking about veterans that have been in the ring 10, 15, 20. I'm talking ring veterans 20, 30, 40 years veterans. I said, some of these guys cannot go on a podcast. They can't do it. They cannot go on air because they don't, it's not the same as what they're used to.
Yeah.
But I was like, this one cat came on our show and he was on for, I don't know, 7, maybe 12 minutes. And he was awesome. He wrote his line perfect. He handled it exactly what he needed to handle. He said what he needed to say, did what he needed to do. He treated it like it was part of the show for the wrestling show that we were promoting.
Yeah. Did an amazing job.
You already know. I don't even have to tell you who I'm talking about. I'll tell you off air, Eric. But I'm not gonna name his name right now. But the guy was just spot on, and it's wild to me how some guys can do it and some guys can't. There are people that have been in this industry forever and can't go and draw the lines outside of filming a promo or being in the ring themselves.
It brings up a point. There are things in this business. This was something that Grady and I even talked about. It's kind of weird that you bring this up. We agree that two things in the business were a lost art: tag team wrestling and managers. Because you see a lot of tag teams out there; they're just thrown together. There's no connection. There's no chemistry. There's no nothing. And they're just thrown in there and thrown into the mix. You've seen that a bunch.
Right.
And how many people out there that are managers, and I can speak on this all day long because I am the manager of Champions for a reason, know what it really takes to be a great wrestling manager, not just a showpiece on the side of the ring somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. But sometimes you just get kind of thrown together with somebody that you don't really have chemistry with, but you're going to have to make it work and make that person shine regardless.
I mean,
what is the true role of a manager? Do you know?
To get bookings.
To get bookings, right? And to take care of every aspect of their client's career.
Right.
People I managed, I arranged their airfare, I arranged their hotels. I made sure they were paid right. I made sure their matches were agented right. And I made sure it was quality over quantity. That we weren't going to every Tom, Dick, and Harry's independent show. And you're going to job out to some guy that's way past his prime, that's asthmatic, and would probably have a heart attack getting to the ring, and you're supposed to put this guy over? No. We're not doing that. And if I put you in the ring with this young fire pitcher that has all the heart in the world, that has a chance to not only get themselves noticed, but get my talent noticed on a global scale. And that is what quality over quantity is.
Right.
True.
And as a manager, I build champions. Right? I build champions. I get people, take them from nothing and build them into something. Sometimes they don't always thank me. Sometimes they forget about me. But I ain't mad. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I know what I am and what I'm not. And that's the other thing. A lot of people are not confident with what they are and what they're not.
Any words of wisdom or anything that you feel like Grady has instilled in you? Any words of advice or anything that you can remember him telling you directly?
Like I said, get out of that mentality that you can't get out of your own way. You have to constantly be improving. You have to constantly be evolving. And just because it's free doesn't mean it's good.
That's a good one.
I mean, that's it. But listen, gentlemen, appreciate y'all's time this evening. Let me cope with this and tell stories and share as I'm always willing to do. I'm gonna let you guys get to your families. I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night early, I think.
Yep. Hang tight just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you all Thursday night for the Round Table Rumble. Don't be alarmed. I can't tell you who's going to show up because I don't know. But I've been told we got a new show in town coming to join the round table. So
nice.
We're going to find out how that rolls out. Oh, yeah. So we'll see you all
there
Thursday night. Once again, thank you, everybody. And the GoFundMe link, when it comes up, you will find it on our social medias. Thank y'all for tuning in. And, just keep Grady and his friends, family, and, anybody that this man touched, inspired, instilled values in, keep all of them in your thoughts and your prayers as well. Thank y'all for tuning in, and y'all have a great night.
we go.